Well, let's start from the controversy that arose out of the election, the division within the Electoral Commission. So in his own...
It's very interesting. When Kweku comes, I'll be asking him what does the law say. But Laban seems to say that it is similar to Ghana. The returning officer for the presidential election is the Electoral Commissioner, the head of the Electoral Commission. So whatever he says, whatever she says is the final.
Yeah, but I think one of the opposition arguments was that he lacks the quorum because 4 were out.
No, there's no quorum like that according to Ghanaian law. Kweku tell us when he comes in.
That was his argument, but he's also
quorum.
saying...
But he is the sole returning officer for the presidential election.
That is the argument of the opposition. That's now one of the arguments.
That he's not the sole returning officer?
That out of 7, since the 4 are out, he lacks the... But that is subject to legality. Subject to legality.
No, I don't think he's right. You know, it came up in our election petition. Remember when the President Mohammed's petition, when Mr. Chikata tried to impress upon the court that Gina Dukwe Mensah is the sole electoral commission, that she must mount the podium. Yeah. The podium. It was sort of upheld by the court that yes, she is the sole electoral commissioner and her word is final. Whether Bosman Asari agrees or not, the law doesn't give Bosman Asari the space to express his disagreement. This is the sole returning officer. So what did he say? He said,
so I stand here despite intimidation and harassment. I took an oath of office to serve this country and have done my duty in accordance to the constitution and the laws of the land. This is self-opening.
Oh, he found himself saying that?
Yeah. Then this is self-opening.
That's not nice. That's not
This
great.
is self-opening a can of a lot of issues.
He said, I stand here despite intimidation and harassment. From whom? He didn't say.
That is the issue now. Is it from the government side or...
I took an oath of office to serve this country and I have done my duty in accordance with the constitution.
That becomes difficult because in this case, Ruto, being an opposition, is still in government.
Ruto is the vice president.
Yeah, he's still in government, technically.
Yeah.
And then Raila Odinga, despite being an opposition outside government...
Seems like he's the government candidate.
The government candidate. So it becomes, the bigger question is who is intimidating who in this equation?
Very interesting. Let's move on. What else do you have?
And then this is the official gazette, which he has released.
That's very confusing when he said that. You know, the Laban told us that it's been gazetted. Yeah. So when you gazette it like this, and then the Supreme Court overturns it, what happens? I'm not sure why they do it like this in Kenya.
Yeah, you go back to the election. You can't remember.
And then you change the gazette?
If the Supreme Court changes the whole thing.
If the Supreme Court can give one of 3 outcomes. Yeah. One, that the election was valid and that the declaration of William Ruto is valid.
Stands.
2, that there were some hiccups in certain areas and they will ask for re-election, or they will annul the entire process. Yeah. If they were to annul the entire process, what happens to this gazette?
This becomes invalid.
But that's why they shouldn't be in a hurry to gazette. In Ghana, we gazette very late.
If he has to do his work.
In America, they gazette sometime in March.
Well, I don't know why he chose...
After the November election, after the January swearing in. America gazettes in March, something like that.
I don't know.
We gazette much, much later. But I'm not sure why they are in a hurry to gazette. So this is the official gazette. Yeah. What does it say?
Gazette number 9773, the Constitution of Kenya, the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission Act. Number 9.
So it is saying that William Ruto is what?
In short, he's saying
President-elect.
Yeah, based on this article of the Constitution, Ruto is President-elect, and then his running mate, Gachagua Rigathi, is the deputy.
Did they use the word elect?
Yeah, I think. Yeah, he's elected. That's it.
We have to look for it. Having been duly elected as the President and Deputy President, respectively, of the Republic of Kenya. No, I'm not sure this is great. They can't do that. Well, Kenya, I thought they were learning from Ghana, but it looks like they are.
The reason for this is that what if there was no court case?
Well,
so
if the court case, we know whether there's a court case or not within just 7 days of the declaration.
Sure.
Within 7 days of the declaration, people must file. So can't we wait for 7 days
then
to put out the gazette?
I don't know why you chose that route.
Well, let's move on. Let's move on and see what you have.
And so far, this is the official result that he declared. Ruto had 50.49%, and then Raila Odinga got 48.85% of the vote.
Let's look at the difference in votes. 6.9 million to 7.1 million.
So that gives us about...
That's 200 and something thousand.
33,211 or so.
Wow, that's close.
Yeah, very close.
For 13 million, was it? No, total votes was what in the end? 22 million registered voters. 15 sort of.
Yeah,
15 million voters with 200,000 difference.
The turnout was around 64%.
Yeah.
Quite lower than the previous one, which was 71% or so.
Okay.
But
that's interesting. It's a winner takes all, so it doesn't matter by what margin.
I think at the top here, but at the parliamentary level, the election is based on party list.
Yes.
And that is the election. So at the presidential level, it seems Ruto has lost, Odinga lost. But if you look at the county election, it's almost neck and neck.
As in the representation in parliament?
Yeah, the representation in parliament.
The MPs that were elected.
Azimio has more seats than what do you call it, Kwanzaa.
No, but you see, this analysis has to be looked at within the context
No,
of the disputes between the president and the vice president. Because if you look, so which one is Ruto's party?
I think
is it Uhuru's party?
I think Ruto's party is Odinga's party, which is Azimio Alliance.
That's Ruto's party.
No, Uhuru's party.
Uhuru's party
is with Raila Odinga.
Not Jubilee. Jubilee is gone.
Jubilee is an alliance with Ruto, ODM.
But some members of Jubilee left to join Ruto.
Yeah, to join Ruto.
Did he have to form a new political
party?
So
Ruto formed the United Democratic Alliance, which is his main
so
party.
Ruto formed a new political party, the United Democratic Alliance,
and then had
just to allow him to run on the ticket of that party.
And had such certain parties
join him,
which formed the Kenya Kwanzaa Alliance.
Okay.
And then ODM, which is Raila Odinga's main party,
original party,
Orange Democratic Movement, and Jubilee Party, which Ruto left.
Yes. Jubilee is the ruling.
Yeah, the ruling party was now in alliance with Raila Odinga's ODM to form the, what do you call it, Umoja.
So we will suggest that President Kenyatta whipped Jubilee to join Raila.
Sure.
Or brought Raila to Jubilee, whichever way we look at it. Sure. And that impaired William Ruto's march to the presidency. So he exited to form his own party.
Sure.
So it's a party that's 2 years old, 1 year old. How old?
Sure. I think less than 2 years.
Less than 2 years old.
It was somewhere last year.
And they win the presidential election. And he got MPs from Jubilee to join him, to leave Jubilee and join him. And some of them were elected. Yeah. So who is controlling parliament now after the election?
Per the result, Azimio has the lead, I think, with some few votes. We'll get to there. We'll get there.
That's interesting.
But that's something I see.
So the party that presented Raila, the coalition that presented Raila, won parliament. Yeah. But they lost the presidency. So it's controversial.
So it seems Ruto benefits.
So they are going to have the Speaker of Parliament. Yeah.
The Speaker of Parliament is actually, I don't know how they, but he's not a member of the seat.
I know, but
with
majority
with the hanging nature of the legislature, I don't know how they come to a consensus.
Is it hung or they have a clear lead in the legislature? A few majority. About how many?
I think about 2 seats. Or 3.
2?
2 or 3.
Wow. It's going to be very tight.
So I think Ruto benefited from anger against Uhuru.
It looks like that.
Because had Raila Odinga stood in opposition and left them to take the blame, it would have benefited him. See, if I have
say that again, that's interesting. That if Raila had maintained his opposition towards Uhuru and William Ruto's government, he would have been a better candidate. More acceptable.
See, aside
you think his eligibility and electability would have been higher if he had continued in his opposition.
Sure.
That's interesting.
But you see, another thing is that aside the ethnic twist of the whole argument, there was the issue of bread and butter. And that played out in supposed Uhuru stronghold.
How did it play out? How did the bread and butter play out?
Mount Kenya region.
How did it play out?
Because the Kikuyus naturally have historically voted towards one bloc. But this time around, it seems Ruto really benefited from their vote.
Kikuyus are the tribe of Kenyatta.
Yeah.
And it was and they are the majority tribe. Not overwhelming majority, but the majority.
And they've historically voted in bloc.
And this time they voted for Ruto?
Ruto.
Could it not be that Ruto's running mate, who is now the elect vice president, deputy president as they call it in Kenya, had such big influence among Kikuyus, and therefore he drew the vote?
Yeah, he's a very good orator also.
He's a good orator? Yeah. Was he a member of parliament before?
Yeah, he has legislative experience.
Okay.
But then, what do you call it? Odinga also came with a Kikuyu candidate. Now I'm saying that it looks like if I have issue with the government.
The Odinga one, I'm going to discuss it when we get to the politics of it, about the female candidate that she presented.
Yeah, Martha Karua.
And I was discussing it today with the researchers, and somebody was saying that maybe in Africa we should gather more data with elections. When we are doing elections, we should use the opportunity to gather more data. So the ballot paper must now have something at the back of it where you write your age, you are between 20 and 25, 30, and then you just take it. Yeah. So you take the paper and you are below, you are between 25 and 26, you take it. Male or female, you take it. Then we will be able to do some analysis with data to show that in this polling station, or in this constituency, the 5,000 registered voters who were women did not vote for the female candidate. That will help us in the future, so that we don't say that we are presenting a female candidate because they are 51 point something.
That would be an interesting. There's always this argument.
It should be. We should be able to do that.
This argument.
Original thinking should take us there. Let us have a ballot paper that gives so that when we finish the election, we don't just have this data that is in front of us, who won and who lost, but we have more data which says that ages between so and so voted for Raila. Ages between so and so voted for Ruto. And gender. In Ashanti, most men voted for Nana Akufo-Addo. In Northern region, most women voted for Dr. Bawumia. In this region, most men voted for President Mahama. That then brings out a lot more data for media, civil society, journalists. If we are thinking originally, these are the things we should be doing.
Very controversial because
they
believe the women themselves are their own enemies.
Fair enough, but that if we add this, it does not take away from, the lawyers can explain, but it does not take away from the anonymity of the voter, because that's always very important. Anonymity of the voter is important. If you say I'm between the age of that and I'm a man, except we don't want people to go into the ballot and take women when they are men, and there's no way to verify that.
It will be a policy formulation.
It is important for policy formulation.
How to formulate policies that are targeted towards the women.
Absolutely.
Women empowerment.
And for the candidate who is elected and for the candidate who loses, they all now have the data to show that, oh, women in Greater Accra voted for me, but women in Ashanti did not vote for me.
So what
happened?
For it?
And then we can make the system better. So tomorrow, write to Bosman Asare. You know him, don't you? Sure. Yeah, he taught you. Yeah, write to Bosman Asare and tell him that something has come out from Good Evening Ghana. Maybe you should consider it for the next election. Anyway, let's move on.
And then there was this argument by the, what do you call it, the losing side.
Yeah.
Which is technically in government also, that the data is skewed to favor the opposition.
Yeah.
But then one strong civil society organization in Kenya, which is the Election Observer Group.
Election Observer Group, OEG.
Yeah, ELOG. Have their own parallel voting tally.
So you call them like a Cordio?
Yeah, something like Cordio.
All right. What do they have?
They did their own parallel tally, hand in hand with what the EC was doing. So this is the result they came up with. So over here, we have the official result as declared by the EC. And here we have their own, what do you call it, tally. And the margin of error is 2%. So you could see that even if 2% is added to, what do you call it, if the percentage is added to, what do you call it, Ruto's case.
But they came up with similar figures.
Similar figures.
So they sort of think that there was nothing wrong with the election.
Yeah, they agreed
but
that.
But Laban told us that from the publication of the results, you can calculate in your room as a journalist.
Everything was uploaded.
Yeah, so all the 47 counties, constituency by constituency, polling station, so every ballot paper that was counted has been accounted for. So what is the case of William Ruto? What did he really say in the
I think there was this rancor that emerged in the final telegram where they called the boomers. And I think David Wahiga, one of the candidates, here.
Yes.
Later, he made a press conference.
Let's look at the candidates again. Let's keep it on. Okay. So what did Wahiga say?
He organized a press conference and he blamed the Azimio coalition for the rancor that emerged.
Who is Azimio coalition?
That is, what do you call it?
Raila Odinga's coalition.
And Uhuru coalition.
He blamed them for the rancor that emerged at the commission.
At the commission, at the
county. During the declaration.
At the tally ground. Now, there was this confrontation in the tally ground where people were intruding into the ground itself. So this rancor here and there. So he is blaming them for that.
Okay, but he's accepted the results?
He accepted the results and
this one too accepted the results?
Congratulated.
So they've all sent their congratulatory messages. Only Raila didn't.
Yeah.
But in his press conference, you've listened to him. Did he point to anything? Because if, for instance, you look at Akufo-Addo's press conference of 2012, he pointed to overvoting, voting without verification, ballot papers that were voting that took place on the second day. He pointed to some 6 or 5 irregularities, drawing it from the law, and said that these are the observations we've made, and so we are going to court. President Mahama also pointed out to a few things. Fundamentally, they talked about the declaration of Jean Mensa that it was a mistake, it was wrong, and the calculation didn't add up. So what did Raila really say? I
think one of the weapons in his hands is the fact that there was a discord between the Electoral Commission.
That's not enough.
And then another thing was, I see...
But those commissioners who are disagreeing, what are they saying?
They are saying that the process is opaque.
What's the meaning of that?
That's the problem.
If a journalist can look at the process and say, I can calculate it myself.
And that is the problem.
I can do every calculation myself. How then do commissioners come and say it's opaque?
I think even in 2017, there was also a division within...
Oh, there was?
Within
so
the
it's historical.
So it's not new to Kenya, perhaps.
Okay, let's move on. We have...
And then the similarity and the issue of precedent allowed the judiciary to just deal with the issue very quick.
Okay.
And also this is just a short profile of each candidate.
Okay. He was born in 77 then?
Yeah.
I see.
And then he was once jailed under Arap Moi when there was a failed coup in 1982.
For being sort of responsible for it?
And then he later joined his father's Forum for Restoration of Democracy in Kenya, just in the 90s. But he has this
What
issue.
is his background in terms of the work he did? Or he's been in politics all the time?
No, he was in business.
What did he do? He's a businessman.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then along the line, from the 90s contested election, he was once an MP.
Yeah.
In 97, he placed third in the election in which that was the second. The multi-party democracy was restored in the 90s. So Arap Moi won his first term. In the second term, there was this election between Moi and Kibaki, which Kibaki lost and came second. He placed third.
Okay. Let's look at the other things. We don't have much
No,
time.
but another thing about Odinga is that he has this tradition of joining powers. He once went into an alliance with Moi to form New Kanu and was hoping to be given some leverage or being the position of prime minister. But when he realized that Moi was breaking the agreement in 2005, then he formed the ODM. No, then he joined the, he later went with Kibaki to form the National Rainbow Coalition that unseated.
That then won many elections.
And there was this argument that around that point in time, Moi was also trying to groom Uhuru Kenyatta as his successor.
Let's quickly talk about the Uhuru Kenyatta factor. They did work, they did not work. What happened?
Uhuru Kenyatta factor.
Yes, the Uhuru Kenyatta factor in this election.
I think it didn't work.
It did not work.
For the presidential
Yes,
it didn't work.
It did not work. Oh. Well, you can say it did not work because he didn't win. But without Uhuru Kenyatta, would he have gotten 48%? Given the history you are given of him, it looks like he has a little bit, permit me to say, quote and unquote, a trust deficit with the Kenyan people.
Perhaps more like a desperation for power.
Yes, he has a trust deficit. So people don't trust him because of the flip-flopping.
Just like Atiku. Some will say Atiku flip-flop.
Oh, we don't want to go there yet. You know.
I'm just trying to
We'll come after you soon. So we'll talk about Nigeria. We have a lot of time to talk about Nigeria. So but
he has this
if he suffers the trust deficit, which is completely devastating in politics, no politician should suffer a trust deficit. Once you suffer a trust deficit, you are in trouble. Now, it looks like he does. Without President Kenyatta's support, would he have arrived at 48% of the vote? Or is it the Uhuru Kenyatta factor that brought him all the way almost to the finishing line?
He would have gotten a very huge margin, but then Uhuru Kenyatta factor equally played a role in giving him that mileage. Because if I'm the floating voters might look at issues, but for the hardcore party supporters and loyalists, they will have problem with him.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Because even the parties that presented themselves for the election were not available 5 years ago. That's also very interesting with Kenyan politics. You see, once in Nigeria, the parties remain and the people change dramatically from one end to the other. In Kenya, what we are finding is that the parties collapse and they form new ones.
Especially when a new party is coming to power, the old party leaving government dies totally.
Completely. So they don't have a party that has been there.
With the rise of the Rainbow Coalition, Kanu went into comatose.
They don't have a party that has been there for 5-6 elections. They don't have one.
Well, Kanu is still there but irrelevant.
I see. That's interesting. I think that's our takeout from this one. Kenya has a system where political parties come and go like anything else. Then the actors, the principal actors, remain with different colors.
And that also
in Nigeria,
similarly,
political parties are there, but the actors can change anyhow. So you have a blue actor comes to red comes to blue. But in Ghana, we have the political parties remaining.
We have the political tradition.
They've been there forever. We have the traditions.
We also have that ideological.
And we have individuals who are within this party will never cross.
I think the issue is two. You know, in the course of the struggle for independence, there was this kind of dual parties in the context, and it was more like serious democratic contest. But in the course of these countries, for example, in the Southern African issue and Kenya, for example, it was more of a race and land issue.
More than real politics and policy.
More than real politics. So if you look at those places, you hear the parties having African National Union, to distinguish the blacks against the settler population.
Yeah, that's true. Same with the African National Congress, ANC. Same with ZANU-PF in Zimbabwe. Same with the Kaunda's party in Zambia.
Same with the MPLA in Rwanda. So their struggle was fueled by the issue of the land and the race issue. So there was no really...
Ours was a conversation about policy and philosophy.
And that is
which I think was
and
higher.
That is why Ghana is even a bit more stable than Nigeria. Because if you look at Nigeria's struggle for independence, it was more like a choreograph something. From 56, there are this series of conflicts.
And it was always thinking about 3 nations as one.
Because the British didn't want to leave a bifurcated Nigeria. They wanted to make sure the polity they had created survived. So it was more like the 3 tribes coming to Georgia.
Yeah, so it was always about the tripartite leadership.
And that neglected the interest of the minority. But because we had that serious competition, that dialogue, that discussion, that competition, and there was this ideological divide. So we have more of party tradition.
That's a question. Do you think that the coup d'etats, the intervening coup d'etats in Ghana, were all sort of left wing? So the right wing suffered, did it? in terms of the history in Ghana.
Yeah, I think, and that is what gave the right wing a mileage with the restoration of democracy.
Ah, you're right about that. And
Because-
that's why the
because
press
they were seen as the
joined the
they were
right
seen-
wing
yeah, they were
in the
seen as the
1992
voices,
period.
They were seen as the voice of the people, those campaigning for freedom, because the left wing along the line really started with the military coup d'etat.
Or the military sided with the left wing. Okay, Bello, let's end it here. We don't have much time. We might not.
But let's
even-
look at the regional implication.
Yes, please. Let's do that. Yeah. And as I talk to Bello, Kweku, please get ready. We need the legal
So,
analysis to come on.
When you come here,
Okay. Excellent. So this is the map.
yeah, and then this is South Sudan.
South Sudan is over there. Yeah, it's better if it's bigger so viewers can see it well.
South Sudan is in flux, don't
Yeah.
forget. Ethiopia has issues around Ogaden, although in the northern part. Somalia is unstable. Central African Republic is unstable. So any instability here,
Democratic Congo is unstable.
at this one it has never been stable. For Congo, you
That's
don't-
what they say. They say
Congo
can
has never been stable.
You know what they call them? They call them too rich for peace.
Congo has never been stable. And there's this Rwanda factor here. And then there's also another, in South Sudan, it is more about what do you call
But
it?
this is interesting. So Kenya is surrounded by Somalia, Al-Shabaab.
Yeah, and even around this
Then you
portion,
have Ethiopia, you have Djibouti,
Yeah.
Eritrea, South Sudan. Uganda is stable though.
Yeah,
Yoweri Museveni
Uganda
is in
relatively-
control of
yeah,
Uganda.
stable.
Yeah.
Sudan is unstable.
Tanzania is stable as well.
Yeah, so these are the few stable
Mozambique
countries.
is not bad.
Rwanda is not, Burundi is not stable.
Rwanda is a dictatorship.
Well, it depends,
Well,
it depends where we look
how
at
you
it.
look at it here, I agree with you.
But then there's this.
But Rwanda is strong leadership, so
Yeah, Rwanda
you
is
can
strong.
call it stable.
Rwanda is cool. So
Yeah.
the issue is that in case of any instability, what form will it take? If we go by the 2007-2008 issue, it will have taken an ethnic twist. But if you look at the election around the results, Ruto did well around the Mount Kenya and Rift Valley region, which is where the clash was very intense. It seemed there was this convergence of vote towards one candidate, and that diluted the whole issue. And then secondly, the judiciary has shown more capacity to deal with election-related, what do you call it, disagreement
in Kenya. Okay.
than previously.
Good.
But then, the problem now is, Al-Shabaab might capitalize on that to attack. And mind you, in between the border of Kenya and Somalia, you have ethnic Somalis occupying that terrain. And they have also have issues with the central government in Kenya. But as to how this current devolved government, post the violence, the new constitution, in as much as Kenya is a centralized state, it has this devolved arrangement where governors are elected for counties and they control such a huge chunk of fund.
I see. We have to end that. But that what you just said is interesting. Looking at President Uhuru Kenyatta's posture right now, if there were any disturbance from Al-Shabaab at the border, he might call a state of emergency. He might get the parliament to grant a state of emergency. And that will prolong his rule.
But
And Ruto will complain about it.
But I think if you look at his posture, he has already accepted the verdict. He's going into retirement.
No, but the matter is now going to court. And if there are any disturbances within the next 2 weeks, which can be fomented by political interest in Kenya, political interest in Kenya can organize these guys and say, Charlie, let's do something. And then they start insurgents into Kenya, and they're approaching Nairobi. President Kenyatta will now have the mandate to call for a state of emergency to prolong his rule.
That was used
and call for a government of coalition.
Yeah, they failed
and
coup.
ask Ruto to agree that Raila be his vice president.
Well, that would deepen the divide.
We should be looking at
because looking at the discord between the two sides, both Ruto and what do you call it?
President Kenyatta should now, if he's demonstrating perhaps his
Good
commitment, good leadership, he should be sending troops to the border
No, Kenya has a contingent troops
that are
in
stationed there.
Somalia, and that is what is creating the backlash for Kenya and not Ethiopia.
Because the Somalis are resisting
The
that.
Somalis have always had animosity with these two countries.
Okay.
So when
I have to leave it here, Bello. We will continue. We'll continue.